G'day guys. Just thought I'd run through some things that I've learned through my years of hunting. Been listening to the Hunt Backcountry podcast this last week, and they've been going through things that make them better hunters, like mistakes and things like that, tips and tricks and things that can really help other people improve their hunting and their time in the bush. And I guess something I've learned over the years is to learn from your mistakes, and we've all been there and experienced mistakes. If we do something right, that's good. But if we can't really get to that point until we make the wrong decisions, and that's how we learn. So some of the things I've learned in my 18 years of hunting, there's plenty of things that I could share, but I guess just a couple of things would be just some of my experiences. And when I was 18, I went on my first solo hunt without my dad. I took a mate from school, and we'd hunted up near Mansfield, only about an hour out of town. And we were there for Friday, Saturday, and we were leaving Sunday. And we got on a good sign all weekend. And it come around to Sunday morning, we were coming up this beautiful little around the side of this ridge up into the head of a gully, and I had my dad's 300 Win Mag, and I hadn't sighted it in, not for a long time. And being young and not really thinking about too much, I should be right. We come around the side, and I looked up and saw the doe duck down into the gully, and I put my hand up to my mate and I said, "Hey, there's a deer." And I look back, and the stag walks out at 70 metres behind a tree, front side and neck and head all showing. So I lifted the rifle and bang, offhand shot, and he sort of stood there and didn't do much. So I loaded again, and before I get another shot, he sort of trotted up over the top of the ridge, and off he went. And when we got over there, it turns out I'd hit the tree by about the width of your thumb, and I couldn't believe it. I smiled inwardly though. That stuff happens, and another inch or two to the left, I would have got him. And long story short, I checked the rifle when we got back from the trip at some point, and it was shooting to the right. And look, I could have pulled the rifle, I could have done anything, but the fact that it was shooting to the right, and then that's where I hit the tree. If I'd sighted my gun in, then I could have a nice 27-inch stag on the wall on my first solo trip. So I learnt that lesson. Always check your rifle, always check your gear. If you don't have confidence in your gear, especially your rifle, it's going to make hunting harder, and hunting is hard enough as it is. Another thing, we were hunting in the Wonnegata when I shot my first deer, and we crossed the river a couple of times. It sort of S-bends through, and it was sort of only shin deep, give or take. And this time I unloaded the rifle, I pushed the bullet down into the magazine and closed the bolt back to the way I normally carry it. So we crossed the river, and I looked down, bolt was the way I normally have it when I'm hunting, so I didn't think much of it. I didn't click that I'd had to reload it. So we walked about 200 metres, and of course, Murphy's Law, there's a young stag, probably 20 inches in length, about 30 metres above us as we're walking along the river flat. He was up on the side of the hill here, and Dad went, "Psst, boy, stag." And I got up, and it just went click, no bullet. So I quickly reloaded, and the click was enough for him to just turn around and get into the thick stuff and get away. And the disappointment I had was just ridiculous. Those sorts of opportunities don't come my way often, think I might have been 20, 21, and yeah, another mistake, you know, and I learned from that. So, you know, now across the river, I either change the bolt so it's how I wouldn't normally hunt with it, so it triggers me to remember to reload, and yeah, stuff like that. You know, Dad and I were hunting up in the Hauqua, and we were coming down. We hunted most of the day, and we were coming back down through a nice wallow, and we were coming back down towards the ridge that we needed to be on to go down to camp. And there was some thick stuff, real thick stuff. Well, Dad actually fell over, made a bit of noise, fell over, got back up. We walked 20 metres, and a stag, no joke, was probably 15 metres from us. Must have been asleep, didn't hear us. Got up in the thicket and took off, and he stopped behind a thick scrub. And we didn't take the shot, even though we knew where he was. You know, we didn't take the shot because we weren't 100% sure. Like, I learnt from that those thick patches of bush, even in the open stuff, or you know, not as thick, though, to keep an eye out for those thick patches of bush, because if they're bedded in there or standing in there, you can be, you know, ready to go as you approach it, and if they take off, you can get a shot. We're hunting the same area a couple of years later, and we headed up a couple of k's back from the river, and we're coming up to a head of a gully, and I remembered that that hunt, and there was some nice thick stuff up the top, and we sort of, as we closed in, I was looking around, and I looked up, and there's this horizontal brown blob about 60 metres ahead of me, and as I realised what it was a stag, and as I lifted the gun, he got up, and within 2 strides he was just flat stick. He was just running like crazy. So I followed him, and Dad didn't even know, because I didn't have time to let him know. He was down 10 metres from me or so, looking the other direction, and the stag just hightails it across the around the head of the gully, comes back around, and I couldn't get a shot because all the sticks and the trees were all sort of like that. And again, inexperience, I haven't pulled the trigger much, but again, it comes back to ethics. You know, you want to make sure you take an ethical shot. So I was following him, and I didn't end up pulling the trigger. He was moving pretty quick, but again, I learned from past experiences, and that almost got me a deer, because I was switched on about that thick bush, and that there could be a stag there, and that's what happened. So learning from your mistakes is just so important. There was a hunt that I went on I took a mate's bow and arrow, and I do a lot of walking them up, I guess, and stalking, and I don't do a lot of sitting waiting, and I've been working on that this last year. I've realised that that's just what I've got to do. I've got to be more patient, and you know, all the boys, all the popular fellas that are well known in our hunting industry have said to me, you know, look more, walk less. And you know, a lot of people go, oh yeah, it's obvious, but again, it takes time for us to learn these things, I guess, and we can be impatient even when we try in the past to improve ourselves. It's, you know, not easy to be patient, but on this one hunt, when I took this bow and arrow, I'd come into a beautiful little gully, really nice little grassy gully. I walked up, and I found this wallow, and I thought, right, I'm going to sit here for an hour. An hour out of your day isn't much. I'll sit here for an hour. And there was a beautiful little, so I'm sitting here, the wallow's there, and it sort of comes in like this. And I thought, if a deer comes down here, I've got the bush on my left, they might just poke in, and I can draw back and get a shot. Never hunted with a bow in my life. And I sat there, and, you know, wasn't too comfortable, but I was, you know, sat there for half an hour, 45 minutes. Got to about 45 minutes, and I was getting a bit itchy, and I thought, oh, I'll just go and have a look at the wallow, you know, and I'll come back and sit down. So I got my gear, got up, walked 20 metres, looked at the wallow, walked another 20 metres and I could hear something. I could hear some heavy footsteps and some sticks cracking. I looked up and there's this big hind. She comes straight down where I predicted him to come down. She came straight down there and I drew back and I was watching her and she was sort of on the trot and I wasn't confident and I didn't let the arrow go and I watched her and she went up here and down again and then someone's little companion dog came down the hill, so she was on the move because of him. And was I kicking myself? I was so kicking myself. I'd made this plan, sit here for an hour, and I couldn't even do that. But then, you know, there's times where you could sit there for 6 hours and not see anything. But if you don't try, you don't know. So, another lesson learned. Hey, beautiful?
What are you doing?
I'm just making a video.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking.
You've been talking crazy by me.
That's right. I'll come out in a second, alright? Anyway, I think you get the idea, but yeah, just learn from your mistakes and don't be too hard on yourself. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to share, and I guess we all learn from our mistakes, and again, you know, someone could have hunted sambar for 30 years and still make mistakes. So learn from everything, learn from other people, learn from their success and from their mistakes, and it's only going to improve you. And yeah, time in the bush, it's all experience. So God bless you, just keep at it, and yeah, enjoy the bush.